rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. Wow. Coco didn't need to know that. Anyway, all right. Anyway, as I was getting ready to say hello to everyone. Yes, my Whiskey Warrior P1s are pulling into the station, getting involved, and I just realized I don't have all of my chats up, but that's okay. It is what it is. So, we've had a few things occur over the last couple of days. I haven't really made too many comments on it because, of course, you know, the general rule of thumb here is not to be first, but to be right. And, well, let's just say that there's a reason why. And I'll explain in terms of that here in just a minute, with regards to this, with regards to what's going on in the world. And, well, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Anyway, my apologies on that. Oh, we get a bump every once in a while with the network. I don't know why, but it happens, and I try to avoid it, but yeah. Anyway, so I apologize for that that little setup there. All right. So, where was I? Oh, yes. I was talking about the mainstream media and how the mainstream media has a desire to be first rather than correct anymore. And it seems like they're more afraid of being scooped than they are of being correct on things, correct on the issues. And, well, of course, there's also the whole thing where they have to fit everything into a narrative. And I've got some of that. I've got some examples of that tonight. Plus, Eric Swalwell has pulled ahead Okay, this is really getting frustrating with the disconnects. Huh. Yeah, still a little wonky with the disconnects, and I'm not quite sure I fully understand why that's going on. Going around and dropping and coming back and dropping and coming back. This is this is not good. My connection has been good all day long. Yeah, um, I don't understand. Getting disconnected. Yeah, it's bouncing. Wow, it is my entire. This is not good at all. Starting to get back to something resembling normal. Just give me a minute. Oh yeah, we're still hitting this. Um, wow, this is everything. This is like my entire connection. My entire connection. Wow. Yeah, I don't know for sure if I'm going to be able to keep this up. Well, this is all over the place. Yeah, this is all over the place. Okay, well, it seems to have settled down a little. Well, no, there it goes. Up, down, up, down. I'm gonna have to kind of keep an eye on it, folks. This is not. All right, we're gonna have to keep this. I'm gonna try and stay going here for just a second because it seems to have calmed down somewhat. And like I said, we'll kind of see what's going on. All right, let me kick this off once again. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. I am your named host, Rick. Anyway, let's go ahead and get the thing kicked off tonight. In for the Pledge of Allegiance is the NJY Camps Girls Youth Band or Girls Band. NJY youth camps, girls band. I always screw this one up. But anyway, they're up for the Pledge of Allegiance. They're over here, and they're over here working diligently to get themselves prepared. So let's go ahead and get things kicked off. If you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with the NJY Girls Youth Band. Oh boy, we're getting some high latency here, so that that was the NJY Girls Youth Band. And yeah, it's not just my streaming connection, it's everything. Huh. Okay. Okay. Let's see what happens here. Well, see what happens here. Okay. No. Things have stayed. So, well, sort of. See what's gonna go on. Now, things are. They're appearing to be sort of stable. Sort of. All right. We'll move on. Okay. Hi everybody. I saw everybody. I could see you guys in the chat. The problem was that my internet apparently was having some challenges staying alive well enough for me to actually stream. Yes. Hi, Bonnie. I don't know if I'm actually streaming on any of these other ones. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So I'm live there. Well, they appear to be sort of stable. Yeah, that one's gone. Let's try that again. Let's see. So that was Facebook. We got Facebook. Maybe. Facebook. I don't know. I'm not quite sure where everybody is right now. I'm not quite sure where everybody is right now, but let's see. So it's, yeah. I don't know what's going on with X. X seems to be kind of crazy. Facebook is, well, they're not doing very well there. YouTube. Nope, it's we're crashing out here again. Yeah, I see you guys over on oh my gosh. Anyway, all right. Yeah, I'm seeing high latency times, which of course leads right to a crash. So hopefully it's not going to be too. Things are going to hopefully stable out. Anyway, all right, we'll just get going. We've already lost 20 minutes of the show, so I'm a little. Oh, this is just discombobulating. But anyway, all right. I'm going to skip the headline sponsor because on it, even though it was the Institute on the Constitution. So there you go. All right. As long as I've got all my rumblers going, I think I'm okay. Okay, let's go ahead and talk real quick. Really quick. Apparently, Trump has opened up or is touting a historic $300 billion Texas refinery as the first new U.S. plant in nearly 50 years. Now, for those of you that don't understand, what's going on in terms of the, why our gas prices are the way that they are, and that kind of stuff, a lot of our problem in terms of America is not just oil, crude oil imports. All right. It's not just crude oil imports that are the big deal. The big deal is we don't have enough up-to-date refineries to be able to refine that old crude oil into usable products like gasoline, diesel, those kinds of things. And so just the simple fact that we have the ability now that we're putting in this new U.S. plant is a historic moment. And so Trump is not wrong in that particular scenario. Trump is not wrong with that because, again, I mean, our biggest problem that we have here in the U.S. is that we just don't have a lot of the refineries in order to be able to get our products out of the oil, the crude oil that we get here. And so, I mean, the last place here, we're talking 50 years. So it was back in the 70s that a lot of our oil refineries here in the United States were actually built. And so this is the biggest challenge. This is one of our biggest problems when it comes to energy here is not only just pumping the oil out of the ground, but also being able to refine it into what we need it to be. And so not having a up-to-date refinery has been putting challenges within our supply chain. And this is part of the reason why in America, why we import products at times, why some of our older refineries are having challenges. They get shut down after a while. They have to, maintenance challenges, things of that nature. And a lot of it also, too, has to deal with all the EPA, like the Environmental Protection Act, and a lot of the environmental protections that are out there. So all of that being said, this is historic, and it's $300 billion. It's in Texas. It's going to be in Brownsville, America's first refining facility. It's involving some, I think, I'm hoping they're Native American, but it says Indian partners. And so, again, we got to have these refineries. We've got to get them put in. And so this is one of the big major things. This is a major push, of course, of Donald Trump's administration is to be able to do this. And so, yeah, there you go. So South Texas, Brownsville. Yep. You're going to get it. You're going to get this. It's going to generate thousands of construction and permanent jobs. Will offer wages that exceed market averages. So there you go. I mean, America is coming back. That's what's happening. And partners in India. Oh, okay. So it's India. India is one of our partners. So, so partners in India and their largest privately held energy company called Reliance made a tremendous investment in the project, according to Trump. So AFR also signed a binding 20-year offtake term sheet with the global supermajor. So the company plans formally to break ground on the new refinery in Q2. That's coming up real soon, in Q2 of 2026. So there you go. And it's going to power some global exports. We're gonna be able to start. Obviously, I'm sure India is going to take a full advantage of this, for this. And so, yeah, great stuff from this wonderful administration that we have in the Oval Office now, who is focused on America First and the America First agenda. All right. Moving on into California, which of course has some serious problems with all of their stuff. I mean, they've got the highest gas prices in the nation. Part of the reason being is that they've shut down all of their oil refineries. They're getting their oil their oil. By the way, I don't know if anybody knows this, but part of the reason why gas prices are so high in California is because of the legislation that has been passed. See, apparently, I caught this on a news article. Apparently, the gas that is imported into California is of such a type that it takes a special refinery in order to actually create the blend that California, because of all of its smog emissions and all of the other, all of the environmental impact stuff that they've got going on, all of the legislation and everything else, there's only a few refineries in the world that can actually do the type of gasoline that California has purchased. And you add that to things like the gas taxes and the fees and all of these other things that the Democrats run in California, that they've all put together into this, wonderful, quote unquote, wonderful, yeah, I'm kind of being facetious, wonderful situation here with California, and you've got the highest prices in the nation. And again, the vast majority has not really much to do with the oil, because of course California imports oil only from offshore. They don't really take anything from the U.S., but they import it for the most part from offshore, and they don't even use their own oil reserves. So all of this is basically, if you want to blame somebody for the gas prices in California, blame the Democrats. There you go. But California is going to be under new leadership, and so they're attempting to try and pick the new leadership. And unfortunately, at least up until this point, 2 Republicans have been in the top. Now, keep in mind, California uses essentially the top 2 ranking or ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting. So the top two are what move to the next round, which essentially is the general election. And so one of those top 2, now, according to polling, may very well be Fartswell himself. Fartswell himself may actually be in the running, unfortunately. Now, there is some question. There's still some sort of questions with regards to whether or not Eric Swalwell is actually a resident of California. Because they have a rule, they have a law that the governor whoever is running for governor has to have lived in the state for a certain period of time. And I'm not talking about like a few months, I'm talking years. They have to have as their primary residence the state of California for something like 5 years, if I remember correctly. But anyway, this new Emerson College polling Inside California Politics survey for the primary for the governor finds Congressman Eric Swalwell is now leading this primary at 17%. Followed by Steve Hilton at 13%, Tom Steyer at 11%, Chad Bianco at 11%, and Katie Porter at 8%. And there's still a quarter of voters, 25%, that are undecided in this one. Which, I mean, realistically, it should be all undecided. But anyway, he apparently is... has used his lawyer's office as his permanent residency. So he's had mail sent to his lawyer's office. That's pretty much the case. So, now keep in mind, I mean, polls are polls, and many of the polls have been showing that Steve Hilton. Yeah, Steve Hilton leads the pack rather than Swalwell. So, who knows? Who knows? It's still a little while because the primary is in June, by the way. So there's a little bit of time there. However, all of that being said, Steyer has essentially questioned and has been continually questioning whether or not Swalwell qualifies because of his residency being, quote unquote, on paper only. And what he's saying is basically what, people like Adam Schiff, people like Letitia James, all of these people who potentially have committed quote unquote mortgage fraud. All these people are like, they're buying homes elsewhere. They're listing those, or they're telling people on their mortgage documents that, oh yes, this is going to be my principal residence, so that they can get better rates, better mortgage rates. And in this particular case, I mean, that's what Adam Schiff did. Adam Schiff has been representing California, but he owns a home over on the East Coast that he reportedly has spent more time over there than he has in his actual California residence, which, as I understand it, I believe is like a condo or something like that. Well, anyway, Steyer's attorney, Ryan Hughes, has called Swalwell a resident on paper only, noting that the Democrat purchased a home in the Washington, D.C. area and is registered to vote in a, quote, Livermore home that he does not own. Now, Ryan Hughes called or has been urging the California Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, to reconsider the office's stance, dating at least as far back as 2018, that the state constitution's 5-year residency requirement violates the U.S. Constitution and is unenforceable. I'd like to understand how the U.S. Constitution, which is the federal government, is involved. You know, there's this little thing called the 10th Amendment. But I'd like to really understand the logic that they're trying to make here, that the U.S. Constitution overrides state voting systems. Yeah. Anyway, so questions of legitimacy is going to hang over Swalwell, according to Hughes in this letter, which was reported by Politico. Now, outside of looking at documents of it, you also have real people that apparently live next to Eric Swalwell. Now, look, I'm a private person, and I don't necessarily interact with my neighbors on a regular basis. However, I can, and I actually, where I live is kind of more of a, well, what you would consider a rural area. So most of the people around here generally don't get in other people's businesses. However, for a person who lives reportedly in a populated area in California, that is probably going to be a little different. Now, according to the New York Post, they went to Eric Swalwell's neighborhood, this quiet Livermore cul-de-sac where Swalwell claims to have lived since 2017. And I said the New York Post, I meant the California Post. So the California Post went out and asked around. And they went out on yesterday, and apparently his neighbors, 5 of them, 5 have said that they've never actually met Swalwell. One of them went so far as to say, well, I've lived on Mitchell Court for years, for 5 years, and I've never seen him. Now, apparently this person, her name is Gita Prusty. She lives in a home that is one of 7 on this cul-de-sac, and she wasn't the only one confused when shown his photo. There's another person who lives on in a house 2 doors down from Swalwell's listed address, and she told the California Post that she had never seen him after being shown his picture. When asked how long she had lived on the street, this 19-year-old said, all of my life. Folks, if you live in a cul-de-sac, I'm just going to, I'm going to tell you this right now, because I grew up on a cul-de-sac. And I can tell you that even though I did not specifically know every single neighbor in that cul-de-sac. And again, just keep in mind, I mean, at the time I was a kid, but also keep in mind that I'm a private person by my very nature. And so for me to sit here and to say, or for my neighbors to sit there and say, oh yeah, they've never seen me at all. Well, that's pretty difficult in a very small, packed neighborhood on a quiet street. They should have at least seen him exiting the house, getting in a car, going places, coming home, back, if he had lived there for the time that he is claiming that he has lived there. Now think about this. He says he's lived there since 2017. So 2017 all the way to 2026, that's a span of about 10 years. A little less, 9. I mean, where? I mean, why? How could you not at least notice whether or not a man, generally, you may not know that it's Eric Swalwell, but you would know that, hey, there's a man generally fitting his description living at that address. I can tell you my neighbors next door to me, they moved out a few months ago. I knew that they moved out. I didn't realize that they had sold their house, but I knew that they had moved out. I knew when the new people moved in. And I actually did go over and introduce myself and kind of let them know that, hey, I'm, whatever. And you would see them at some point in your life for that 10-year time span, you realistically would be able to see them if they were actually living there. Now, even if you could go as a stretch and say, well, this guy, he's only been there for half the time. Okay. Half the time. You would think that at least out of 6 months, out of 10 years, which basically would equate to roughly 5 years, you're still going to see them. You're still going to see some movement. You're still going to see a person going in and out and everything else. I just don't get it. How can these people be, moving and going and all of this other stuff? And by the way, Swalwell, if this is found out that Swalwell actually did not live here, okay? Swalwell, reportedly a former prosecutor who maintains a license with the California State Bar, filed a sworn affidavit under penalty of perjury claiming that he had been a California resident since 2006 and that he has lived in that neighborhood since 2017. So, yeah. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting to see if they can prove. Oh, and by the way, I mean, here's an image that is reportedly, I guess, here's an image of what is reportedly the street that he lived on. There's the cul-de-sac that he reportedly lived on, or lives on. So, yeah. This is going to be kind of interesting, folks. That's all I'm going to say. This is just going to be a little interesting. All right. Well, let's see. The outside of the home. Yeah. Apparently on Wednesday, nobody actually answered the door in the 1,350 square foot home owned by the, who is this person? The home itself is supposedly owned by another couple, Nicholas and Christina Mzweka. I don't know, MRZYWKA. By the way, the woman Christina is supposedly, reportedly, the sister-in-law of Swalwell's former political mentor, Yeah. Now keep in mind they tried the Post tried calling the home and and tried visiting the home. They were told that there was nobody who answered, and then when they called Nicholas, he quickly hung up when he was reached by the phone. Reached by phone. So yeah. Now, it does look like there's somebody there because there was a dog in the backyard. There's some garbage in the front yard and some running shoes in the front yard. So there is at least somebody living there. Just don't know who. Yeah. Yep. And by the way, his if he lived in this house, this is the other thing that's really, really weird in this. Apparently, records are showing that Swalwell, despite living there, his campaign records in recent years are actually showing that he spent significant amount of time and money staying at hotels in and around his district, like not actually at home. For an example, just last year, according to this investigation, Swalwell actually made 19 different charges to his campaign at the luxury hotel called the Rosewood Sand Hill in Menlo Park. Yeah. So, by the way, his frequent campaigning and rubbing elbows with celebrities apparently kept him out of Congress from doing his job by the end of last year. In 2023 and 2024, Swalwell apparently made 24 charges at hotels in San Francisco, mostly staying at the 5-star One Hotel, San Francisco, on Embarcadero, as well as the waterfront boutique Hotel Griffin. Why does he need a house, or why does he need to go and stay at these hotels when he's got a house? That's a question that is seriously needs to be asked. So, yeah. So by the way, Jessica Levinson, who is a professor at the Loyola Law School, told the California Post, that the state constitution requires 5 years of residency in California before an election, and a domicile requires a candidate to have a physical presence and intent to remain or return to the home. And when she was briefed on the Post's reporting and what they discovered, she says, well, it looks like there's a real problem here. Huh. So, yeah, we'll have to see. By the way, also, too, the Post discovered that early in the pandemic in 2021 and 2022, Swalwell also stayed at the Rose Hotel in Pleasanton, despite claiming to live in the district, according to campaign records. He also logged charges at the Fairmont Hotel and the Hotel Adagio, I think, Adagio? Yeah, Adagio in San Francisco. Yeah, it's just, there's just way too many questions on this as to whether or not this guy actually really lives in California. All right. Well, CNN. See, now that was reporting. That was actual, like, journalistic reporting. Somebody doing an investigative piece and reporting on it. Okay. Now we're going to switch to the mainstream media because, again, that was a California Post, which, I mean, it was reposted or redone in the New York Post, which actually does do intelligent reporting. But we're now going to move on to the mainstream media and what they were doing. Now, I don't know if anybody knows, but the young black woman that sits on many of the panels that I show here, most of them with Scott Jennings, her name is Abby Phillip. And Abby Phillip apparently reported about the New York City recent attempted bombing, which, by the way, has been determined and supported because the perpetrators who got caught, they actually said, oh, no, this is ISIS-inspired bombing. Well, she apparently said something on air that is entirely and completely false. So, well, let's just,
This morning, I issued a correction first thing in the morning on X for a mistake that I made in last night's show, but I also wanted to do so on air as well. I incorrectly said that the bombs that were thrown by ISIS-inspired suspects in New York over the weekend were directed at Mayor Mamdani. They were not. I failed to catch and correct that mistake in real time, and I take full responsibility for that. And while we do make mistakes, it is important to acknowledge and correct those errors when they happen.
Yeah, she failed to see it in the teleprompter, and she failed to correct it. No offense, but do you believe her? I mean, seriously, do you believe her? First of all, I don't believe she has the wherewithal or the intelligence to catch that real time. Not only that, but she also probably is going to, for fear of any kind of reprisal on live TV, unlike here, when I make a mistake, I just frickin' roll with it. She probably is like, oh my God, I better read exactly what is written in the teleprompter no matter what. Well, I don't use a teleprompter for this, so that's why I always make mistakes. But anyway, yeah, she apparently made the mistake, and she's been called out on it. Now, she did admittedly, she did post a correction on X, but just like every other news media outlet, how often do you see a news media outlet issue a correction and put it on the front page? You don't. They usually bury it all the way down in the backside or somewhere on the paper or whatever. They'll bury it or they'll print it in like really small font because gosh forbid you actually are, admitting to a mistake. We're humans. We make mistakes. That's just the way that things are. But to sit here and to say without a shadow of a doubt, oh, yeah, I'm factual. Yeah. Well, she issued it on X, which, of course, isn't really going to necessarily get the coverage, which is why she did this thing on air. But anyway, yeah. She didn't catch as well, by the way. She not only didn't catch herself doing it, but she also didn't catch, which this is why it's sort of BS. This little apology is sort of BS, because apparently Ana Navarro was a guest on that panel. And, let's just say that Ana Navarro repeated the same lie. So, and Abby Phillip, who is supposed to have been, as she pointed out in her apology, her televised apology, well, I didn't correct it when it happened. Well, why didn't you correct Ana Navarro, who's arguably just as stupid because she's on The View, but why didn't you correct Ana Navarro right then and there about it? So, anyway, you'll also notice too, and a lot of other people notice this as well with this whole thing, is that, well, she issued the correction, but she didn't actually say who the bombs were intended for. She just basically said, well, I unfortunately, I mislabeled them as for Mayor Mamdani. There was no follow on with that to say, well, it was actually for the protesters that were essentially the target for this whole thing. So, yeah. These folks, I'm telling you, these people who are in the mainstream media, why do you think people are starting to turn toward alternative independent sources for all of this stuff? And by the way, there's an update that was posted, or that was written in Red State. So these two individuals, they're two young individuals. I mean, they're adults, but they're like 18 and 19 years old, I think. Anyway, they're two, quote, teenage. Now, notice how they say that, teenage. They're adults. Let's just put it this way. But they're teenagers. And originally the story came out that, oh, these two teenagers, they don't know each other. You know, they didn't know each other. They were there for this, wonderful, bright day in the city or whatever, whatever kind of spin that they had to put on there. Well, it turns out that these two people, they actually, did know each other. And, by the way, there's a notebook. They not only knew each other, but they also plotted multiple different attacks. What? Yeah, there appears to be documentation that officials found showing coordination and planning by these two. And they were also considering other targets, such as shopping centers. And they finally chose the Gracie Mansion. And by the way, this particular notebook was discovered reportedly searching a storage unit in Bucks County, PA, but the authorities did not find any specific stores or other details listed on those secondary plans. So, and by the way, this attack, this attack was pre-planned for more than a week. Yeah. These guys knew. They knew each other. They planned it. This was seriously a terror attack. That's what it was for. So, yeah. And this is part of the reason why, Dan Bongino, and great fan of the Dan Bongino show, but Dan Bongino points out, hey, you got to wait 24 to 72 hours for the real information to be uncovered. And that you shouldn't work to be first, but you should work to be correct. And that's something that I definitely strive for on this show. Well, another story came out, and another host essentially stuck their foot in their mouth and are chewing on it. There's a story about Pete Hegseth, lobster, and steak. Yeah. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, I want to tell you about Rumble Wallet. So here's a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons that I am using Rumble. They made a way for Super Chat creators. They made a way to Super Chat creators, so we get paid immediately without any fees. Now, all of this is, again, this the whole Super Chat idea. That's like the tipping, okay? When you go in and tip or gift or whatever. But anyway, YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% fees when you tip creators. This particular method takes zero. That's right. The platform takes zero fees. And I get to keep nearly 100% of whatever you send me. So you can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether, USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoins. The tip will show directly in our Rumble chat, which I'll do my best read. Anyway, all you need to do is download Rumble Wallet on the App Store and send the tips to your favorite creators. You can send it, or you can go to wallet.rumble.com. That's wallet.rumble.com. Or you can download the app directly from the app stores. Seriously, I mean, this is just absolutely awesome for creators like myself who are attempting to, do something great. You see something awesome, you tip us, and we get our money right away. We get that money, and we get 100% of it, where the Rumble doesn't take a piece of it. So seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. Shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. Go directly to wallet.rumble.com. That's wallet, WALLET.rumble.com. Or you can download them directly from the app stores. That means Google Play and the app store of iOS. That's wallet.rumble.com. All right. So here we are with Pete Hegseth and this story. Now, I'm going to play this for you. I haven't heard this yet, but I'm going to play this for you, and let's just see what this says.
He has spent $15 million in 1 month for ribeye steak, $6.9 million for lobster tail, $225 million for furniture. He spent more in the month of September than most countries on earth spend in their defense.
Paul, do you believe
all for himself? Lobster tails?
Do you believe
while our troops are eating MREs?
No. Do you believe the Secretary of Defense is
okay? So hold up, I gotta do this for the audio portion of the program. The two people that are talking here, one of them is a CNN, idiot. The other one is Scott Jennings. And what I should have done is I should have said this is a Scott Jennings truth bomb, but we'll continue. You'll see what happens here in just a second.
Personally eating all the lobster?
Wait, he can't eat 16?
Troops.
Oh, really? The troops are getting lobster?
Frequently in theater.
Oh, my God.
Troops who are going to war.
Oh, my God.
Great meal. You know that.
They're getting lobster. You are so full of it.
You're going to get killed over this.
You're
going to get killed over this. Internet, do something.
So where this particular clip stops is he goes, Internet, do something. That was Scott Jennings' comment. Internet, do something. Well, what ended up happening is the people who were at Bagram Air Base, over in overseas that were the recipients of this, they all posted videos of them eating steak and lobster. This idiot thinks that it is Pete Hegseth that is doing this. It's not. I promise you, it is not. And let me tell you, when you're out in a war zone, and I've never been to a war zone, but I've been out in the field. When you're out in the field and you're dirty and grimy and you're doing all this work and whatever else, and I mean, you don't sign up to be a soldier for the pay. You really don't, because it isn't that much. I personally think we need to pay them more. I think they should be one of the top paid one of the top paid positions in the country is all of our soldiers. But anyway, he's sitting here. This guy, what's his name? Bigala? Anyway. Yeah. So they're sitting there and complaining about it. Well, the internet also pulled out something else. And, let's just say that, here's some of the headline, or here's a headline. Pete Hegseth blew billions on fruit baskets and lobster. Okay. Except there's only one problem. This has been happening for years. For an example, in 2009, when Robert Gates was the Secretary of Defense during the Obama administration, lobster and crab legs were shipped from the United States into and driven down on a refrigerated truck from Bagram Air Base while they were in Afghanistan. This was on seafood night. The crew served up 400 of the lobster tails, 130 pounds of the Alaskan king crab legs, and 135 pounds each of shrimp and scallops. 2024, Lloyd Austin being the Secretary of Defense, Joe Biden was the President of the United States at the time. The military spent $103.7 million on meat, fish, and poultry, including $16.6 million on ribeye steak and 147 orders of lobster tail for $6.1 million. Yeah. So these leftist idiots like this Hagala guy or whatever his freaking name is on CNN. I don't watch CNN, so I don't really care. Anyway, this guy sitting here trying to say over and over and over again that, oh, Pete Hegseth spent this money on himself. You heard that, right? On himself. No, he spent that money on the troops. Oh, these people! I got to tell you, these leftists, they're running out of stuff to definitely talk about and attack people with. So anyway, all right, folks. On a serious note. Oh, and yes, and by the way, just as a personal experience, I can tell you that even in my chow hall on post, the food was decent. It wasn't that great, but it was decent. And also, too, when we were out in the field, we ate either meals ready to eat, which are basically dehydrated food packs that you can either hydrate and heat up, or, and by the way, I would eat that for, roughly 2 weeks. Or what we would eat as well is either canned food, not quite sea rats, but the more modern version of it, or food that was cooked in a chow hall, put into a can, a metal, metal thermal kind of thing, and send it in from the chow hall. And the chow hall, those cans that the eggs would come in would actually turn the eggs green. Explain to me that one. Well, anyway, I'm not even going to bother, but that's kind of what we ate and drank and everything else. Anyway. All right. Well, moving on. So apparently we've got to keep an eye out. I've been telling you folks about this whole thing is the head on a swivel. Okay, head on a swivel. We really have to be aware of what's going on. And there was actually 2 incidences that occurred within the last 24 hours. One of them is a shooting or an attempted shooting at a Michigan synagogue. And this particular one, in particular, this was a mass shooting at a Michigan synagogue and school was averted today. Apparently security guards jumped into action, took out the attacker, and prevented any of the planned massacre. So, yeah. So there you go. Good guys with guns taking out a bad guy with a gun. Miraculously, only 1 injury was reported out of this guy. Okay. And, yeah. Well, now some details are coming out about the shooter. Based on the vehicle registration, there is a name, but the car that was used is registered to a naturalized U.S. citizen from Lebanon who lives in none other than Dearborn, Michigan. Huh. I think you can kind of take a guess as to the high likelihood of what this individual is or aspires to be. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, obviously the left sits there and talks about, oh no, this is Islamophobia. Really? Okay. Well, a phobia is by definition an irrational fear. Not an irrational fear. There's nothing irrational about fearing an Islamist, a person who is sworn to destroy or kill as many infidels as they want. and wanting to murder Americans. There's nothing phobic about that at all. There's nothing phobic about that. Yet they keep blaming us for quote unquote phobia. Well, there was also a shooting at Old Dominion University. And this individual, unfortunately, there were, I think there were a couple people fatality here. And this guy, apparently, and it has been confirmed that this individual shouted Allahu Akbar, however it's pronounced, as he carried out the attack. And by the way, he was another reportedly naturalized citizen. Folks, they are living here. They are living here. And remember that report that the Americans may have caught the message that was going to initialize or get all of these quote unquote sleeper cells going? Don't think that this stuff may not be connected. Don't think this is, totally separated from each other. Okay. So, early reports, by the way, at this ODU shooting indicated that 2 people were injured and the gunman was dead. Gunman was identified as that, and it appears based on this information that he, along with one of his victims, has died. This guy was a naturalized citizen, reportedly from Sierra Leone. He targeted the ROTC program at the school, which, by the way, a heroic ROTC person who I believe is the one that died, actually killed him with a knife. Yeah. Now, the guy, the perpetrator, apparently stormed into a classroom. This is the early report. Stormed into a classroom inside of ODU's Constant Hall, asked if the class was an ROTC class. When somebody confirmed that it was, he opened fire, shooting the professor several times. And the heroic ROTC student jumped into action before more damage was done, stabbing the perpetrator to death after the crazed suspect gunned down the class instructor, according to sources. So, yeah. By the way, this particular individual, the perpetrator, was identified supposedly as a student at the university and was also identified as being Muslim. Folks, they're here. They're here. And we got to keep our eyes and ears open and everything on a swivel for all of this. Well, my last thing that I want to hit is the fact that Iran's new leader issued a statement this morning. And the statement is talking about the Hormuz closure. And he basically issued this statement, but let's be honest. Let's be honest here that we don't know whether this guy is actually alive or not because we haven't seen him yet. But the statement itself was delivered in writing rather than in person. Another person read it aloud on a TV broadcast on the Iranian leader's behalf. He did not appear on camera during the broadcast. Now, keep in mind, he was reportedly suffered from a leg injury during the attack that targeted his father's bunker. That's coming to us from Israel's intelligence operation. So the severity of his injury is unclear at this point. So we'll just have to see what happens here. But yeah, he finally has issued a statement after becoming leader. Now, He also alluded to this where he was going to go after the military bases of all of the local, places like Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia and so on and so forth. And anyway, he talks about these countries that are essentially supporting us in this. In his address, he acknowledged the death of his father, yada, 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 but he also alluded to further attacks, not only on our military bases, but also on some of the people that are helping us. So, yeah. Like I said, Iran and these kinds of things, these kinds of things, we can't really confirm that this is his actual statement or words because we haven't seen him yet. So, anyway. All right, folks. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning of the hour. I don't know why that occurred, but I can tell you it affected everything that I had, so it must have been my internet connection. And do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget, before you take off, to give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or in the case of 3 Chevy, thumbs sideways, across all my platforms, whether it's X, Facebook, YouTube, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective, provided the internet will supply or will support us. But anyway, we'll see you tomorrow night, hopefully. Have a great evening and good night, everybody.